Hey y'all, hi. It's time for another episode of New Makeup Hot Takes, in which I look at some makeup that's new to the market and give you my, somewhat considered, sometimes uninformed, usually relatively thoughtful opinions and reactions. Today it's kind of an anti-haul through and through, although I've broken it down into two parts. First, I'm going to talk about what I think is like a really strong color story trend that I've seen emerge in the new releases over the past couple of weeks. And then I'm going to talk about a handful of random things that have been released recently, and I'm actually pretty much going to talk about why I'm not buying any of them. If this is your first time to my channel, then welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Hannah. I'm really interested in the relationship between aesthetics and consumerism, and this video is kind of emblematic of that, going through new releases, reacting to the aesthetics of them, what they're trying to sell us, maybe what's inspiring or thought-provoking about them, but from the position of someone who doesn't want to be tricked into buying too much stuff. I hope you'll subscribe if you're not subscribed and if you end up enjoying this. And now let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Before we get started, I have a very exciting announcement. It's not a sponsorship or anything like that. It's about my husband, Joe. For the past several years, Joe has been working on a project of his own, adjacent to everything else that we do together as a working creative couple. He has worked so hard on it, and it represents so many different kinds of labor. And in my opinion, I know that he's my husband, but brilliance. And we have lived together with this developing project as a presence in our lives together for so long that it's hard to believe that it is about to become public. And that's the announcement. He's finally told me that I can tell you that it's coming. It's a podcast. It's not a series podcast that's ongoing. It's a limited run fictional podcast. There are going to be 6 episodes, and they'll be published once a week starting on November 2nd. Now, here's where it gets interesting. It is raunchy. Don't say I didn't warn you. I'd say something maybe best listened to on your headphones, not out loud in the house, not in the presence of children. It's bawdy. It's explicitly bawdy. If you don't historically appreciate explicitly bawdy things, you might not appreciate this. It's not going to be for everyone. That's the caveat. But here's what it is. It is a retelling of Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew, but it's set in a brothel instead of being set in a noble house. And in every other way, it's extremely Shakespearean. It feels like Shakespeare. It sounds like Shakespeare. The soundscape of the podcast is magnificent. Like, it basically feels when you listen to it like you are physically inside of a film version of a dirty version of The Taming of the Shrew. You can hear everything going on around you in 3D. It's pretty wild. It's a comedy. I hope that that's obvious from the way that I've been talking about. It's like a laugh out loud Shakespearean style comedy, but it's also kind of deep in the end because, it's about love and it asks a lot of questions about gender roles and power. You should just, if you're even vaguely interested, here's what I recommend doing. Click through the links that I'm going to put down below. You can read about it on the website. You can follow the project on Instagram. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, which would actually be a really good way to follow the project because I think Joe's planning to post episodes with the transcript so you can listen and read at the same time, which will be really amazing. Yeah, if you do nothing else, I would say subscribe to the YouTube channel. Unless you're like, I hate smut and I hate Shakespeare, so it's a no from me, which is fine. I know that's going to be the case for some of you. But if you're even remotely interested in smut and or Shakespeare, then please follow Joe's future career with great interest. Okay, I'm gonna go scoot to the side. Okay, so we're starting with the color trend. Sometimes when I go to Trend Mood, which is where I go to source information about new releases for these videos, it's an Instagram account that posts about new makeup. Sometimes when I go to Trend Mood and I scroll down, I just start to feel like everything looks the same color-wise. Not necessarily like everything is the same, but just that every other little square on the Instagram account page has the same colors in it. And I really, really strongly felt that this time. So let's put up a collage of screenshots from the Trend Mood Instagram that are all, in my mind, sort of working with the same colors, and we can talk about that. So we have the Glaminatrix Glamorous palette, the Melt Cosmetics Zodiac collection, sort of a weird thing from Melt, but there it is. The new launch from Pleasing, which is a Harry Styles brand, so it's like a collab that includes makeup and also nail polish. The new Urban Decay Naked palette, which I talked about in the last new makeup hot takes, and I was like, it's not naked, it's color. And then some of you explained to me in the comments that the idea is that these are naked colors for the characters that this artist draws, because the characters are all rainbow colors. And that makes total sense to me. I totally get it. I just didn't get it from looking at the palette and reading about the palette. But when you explained it to me, I got it. And I was like, okay, I see you. I see you and I'm okay with it. This palette, which I think is from an indie brand, Gourmand Girls Cosmetics, Doodles by the Bunny. It's like a collab between those two. So put that up as well. The Kathleen Lights Lacquer Zodiac collection, which just, Zodiac is suddenly coming back. Didn't we already do this for a really long time? And you know, I would expect it from Kathleen, but Melt as well. It's like coming at me from a couple of different directions. I think that the new launch from Dior can join this. These two Backstage Glow eyeshadow palettes can join the collage. The new Beauty Bay palette, The Grunge Stole Christmas, which it's like, did I come up with that? Wait, no. Or did Trend Mood just write that? I think it might just be called Dark Fantasy eyeshadow palette. Yeah, it's just called the Dark Fantasy collection. Did Trend Mood just write The Grunge Stole Christmas, like as a caption? I mean, that is good. That's good, y'all. How the Grunge Stole Christmas. Maybe I should do like a tutorial that's called that. Okay, and lastly, this isn't even a picture of makeup, but the Scooby-Doo X Glam Light teaser. It's just like images from Scooby-Doo, but it has all of these same colors too. So hopefully just looking at this collage, you'll be able to see what I'm getting at. I feel like there are so many collections and palettes, pieces of imagery and covers of things, like aesthetics of collections, design choices related to collections, that are doing this thing where they combine jewel tones, basically, like teal and plum and eggplant and sometimes black, with colors that are not quite pastel and not quite neon, but like pastel adjacent and neon adjacent. Almost like pastels and neons had a baby. To me, the Glaminatrix Glamorous palette is the best example. It's the most elegantly balanced and it's the quintessential example. So I'm just gonna zero in on it for a little bit. It's got the teal, it's got some purple, it's got a really, really, really dark eggplant that's nearly black. And then it's got a shiny mint. These like mint and bright teal greens are examples of the like pastel and neon had a baby thing. We're seeing a lot of lime green that's not quite a neon green. It's not quite soft enough to be a pastel. There's also a purple in here that kind of toes that neon line. And there's something really interesting, a forest green, a leaf green. It's that like organic mossy green, sort of grounding it. It's like a combination of colors that I think I tend to associate with sort of plastic and candy and pop culture, with colors that I tend to associate with earthiness and groundedness and smokiness and depth, sort of all bundled together in equal measure. And then a lot of different colors. So color stories that have quite an array of different actual tones. And I feel like all of these kind of have that in their own way. If not, you know, if they're not executing on it fully, like executing on everything that I just said in the one collection or the one piece of makeup, they are doing it in the imagery of the advertising altogether. You know, it's like the choice that's being made to front the collection in terms of color. And I do think this might be a little bit Halloween adjacent. You know what I mean? There's the sort of black background with silver stars, the witchy vibe, the spooky vibe, the smoky vibe. A lot of things that are being released right now are being loosely advertised with that kind of imagery, even though it's not directly Halloween-y. So I feel like the Naked X Robin Eisenberg palette is a really good example of that. If you look at the way it's being marketed here, there's a lot of like black with stars. If you were like, oh, this is Halloween adjacent, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see it, but doesn't say that it's anything about that. It's just people are in that kind of mood. And I think they know that. Same with the Kathleen Lights Zodiac collection. It's like not saying it's a Halloween collection. In fact, it's saying that it's a Zodiac collection, but it looks like a spider web. It's all black with silver. It's very Halloween. So what I'm saying is the fact that October is a month that leads up to a holiday, Halloween, that has a lot of imagery and shapes and vibes and color stories around it and associated with it that are basically rich with potential for repurposing to advertise other things or to structure collections and eyeshadow palettes, et cetera, et cetera. That's not lost on me. I think that that's part of why there is a kind of cohesion on the Trend Mood Instagram grid right now in terms of color. But these collections, with the exception of maybe one of them, aren't actually Halloween collections. So it's not a thing where everyone's like, Halloween this year is all about these colors. It's like this particular fall, which includes the lead up to Halloween, but is a longer season than that. Brands and people who are creating palettes are feeling this juxtaposition of kind of a grungy rainbow with a neon adjacent rainbow. And I do think it's kind of original for Halloween marketing, right? It isn't the classic Halloween marketing. It's a little bit more colorful than that in an interesting way. And it's kind of original, period. And I like it. That's the other thing about it. Like, I like it because I like those grungy rainbow colors and those jewel toned colors. And I like those pops of saturated color. And when I see a palette that has both, I feel like I can kind of access the pops of saturated color through the more grounded, grungier colors. This sells color to me a lot better than a standard rainbow palette or something that's a little bit more run-of-the-mill. So why does that mean that I can anti-haul all of this in one fell swoop? It's because it is this kind of interesting way of combining color categories that is alluring me, not one palette or one launch in particular. And by zooming out and looking at this as a trend, I'm able to identify what it is that's attracting me to any given palette or collection when I see it. I'm able to be like, oh, I'm attracted to it because it's doing that thing that everyone's doing right now. I like that thing, partly because, you know, I'm susceptible to advertising, but also because it checks a couple of my boxes. But just because I like that thing that everyone's doing right now, doesn't mean I have to buy one of these things. And in fact, when I find that suddenly everybody's kind of doing the same thing color-wise in makeup, and I like that thing, that to me is the perfect time to dupe the vibes. It's a sure sign that I can find the pieces of what it is they're packaging and selling in the makeup that I already own, pull it all together with my own hands without buying anything and play with it. And it's exciting when this happens because, you know, I probably wouldn't have thought of putting like a teal and a leaf or forest green and then a pop of mint, bright saturated mint all together in an eye look. But all of these releases are making me want to do that. And I love it when I'm inspired to do something that I wouldn't have thought of doing with the makeup that I already own. So that's the trend that I spotted. Let me know if there's anything else that's been released recently that you feel like aligns with that color story or that trend that I didn't include in the collage, or maybe something that's like been released in the interim since I filmed this and that I didn't know about when I was sitting here talking to the camera. I just wouldn't be surprised if we saw even more things that align with this color story. Okay, let's talk a little bit about minis and like holiday bundles of minis because they're kind of pros and cons. I'm going to anti-haul them, okay? I'm going to anti-haul specifically the ones that are in this post. It's the Danessa Myricks duos, Tower 28 gloss duos, Kosas gloss duos. Oh, there's more. There's like a scrolly thing. Oh no, it's just swatches. LYS Beauty blushes and little minis of the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Spotlight wand. I look at this and I feel two things. I mean, I feel a lot of things, but two things broadly. In broad strokes, I feel two things. Part of me is like, no, minis, no. Not today, minis. I don't tend to like these dinky little tiny versions of pieces of makeup. especially looking at the LYS blushes. I mean, you know they're going to be like that big. They're going to be so dinky. There's just going to be a little bit in each one. It's like paying for samples, like the kinds of samples that you usually get, you know, at checkout at Sephora with your points. That's my first reaction when I see things like this. I like to really value my belongings, especially the things that I choose and buy for myself with my money. I like to feel a sense of specialness around them. And it's really difficult for a little tiny dinky thing like this to feel special in that same way. But at the same time, part of me feels sort of got by this. I look at the Beauty Spotlight Wand Duo and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had the Beauty Spotlight Wand years ago and I loved it. It was my favorite highlighter and I used it up and I always wanted to try the pink one, but I haven't wanted to shell out for the full size because I know I have other makeup that I enjoy and I'm not sure I would like it as much anymore. So maybe getting the little minis kit is exactly what I need. It's just like little tiny versions of them. It probably won't cost as much. And you know, even the LYS cream cheeks, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to try those and I would be able to try 3 different colors and only spend $20. I mean, that feels like a really good deal. Same with the Kosas lip glosses or lip oils or whatever they are. I've always wanted to try them. I'm like, I could get the little 3-pack and I could give 2 of them away for Christmas. You know what I mean? Like my brain starts doing what this kind of sales tactic, like marketing, putting little minis together and selling them at what feels like an affordable price. My brain starts doing exactly what is designed to make my brain do. And you know, which one of those is more correct for you? I don't know. Or for me on any given day? I don't know. I do think there have been times in the past when a little minis kit like this has been a way in for me, a way for me to get a little piece of something that was really popular in the beauty world without buying the entire full-sized thing because I wasn't sure I wanted the full-size thing or I didn't want to spend the amount of the full-size thing. I do think that sometimes that can be the case, sometimes. But for me right now, in this place of feeling sort of like ping-pongy between those two thoughts, being like, no, I don't want dinky little minis. They'll just slip to the back of the drawer or like slip through the cracks of my collection and gather dust. And then this other side of me that's like, oh my gosh, I want those Tower 28 glosses. I want those Charlotte Tilbury things, you know, like only $20 for all 3 colors or whatever, like that, going like ping, 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 ping between those two. All I know is which one I'm gonna choose, okay? I just know that I'm gonna err on the side of no thank you because I won't regret that. It's not like these are gonna haunt me. And if they do, if in a couple of months I'm like, wow, I really wish I had purchased that Charlotte Tilbury mini Spotlight Wand set. If I really, really want it, I'll just go and buy one. But I wasn't sitting over here thinking that I was gonna make that purchase anytime soon. That's the thing. I have not been planning to buy Charlotte Tilbury Spotlight Wand thingies. To me, that's like a thing that I did. I tried that product. I reviewed it a lot. I got to know it really well. I don't have it anymore and I don't particularly miss it because I used it for so long. I've moved on to other things. I just wasn't planning at all to buy it again. That's the principle to which I will stick. And the LYS blushes as well. Lots of people have said I would like them. I've always been curious about them, but I wasn't planning to act on that anytime soon. I didn't have any of them in my shopping cart. It's just sort of an idea that's been floating around. Same with the Kosas glosses and the Tower 28 glosses. I actually know that I don't like them because I had a couple and they went off kind of quickly. And the Danessa Myricks, I actually own the Chrome Flakes in a couple of colors, and the other product in the tube, I've heard it wasn't that great. So all of these things here, I had no plans to buy any of them. And the fact that they're all minis and the fact that they cost a little bit less than a full-sized one would cost if you bought it shouldn't change that. And so that's how I'm causing the ping pong ball to stop pinging. You know what I mean? It's just remembering that none of these were actually on my wish list. So that feeling of like, oh, I definitely want that. What a good deal. It's not real, right? It's not really real. I would so much rather put that $20, that $35 towards something that actually is on my wish list. Okay, let's talk about the RuPaul makeup. I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I don't buy makeup just because it's made by or is a collab with or is branded with some IP that I really love or a person that I really love. And this is just like the ultimate example of that because I love RuPaul. Like I really, really, really love RuPaul. I see this and I'm like, oh my gosh, my icon, you know what I mean? Like my one and only, my actual queen, my person, making makeup, selling makeup. And I do have these feelings of fondness and excitement just because I feel that way whenever I see RuPaul anywhere doing anything. But there's nothing about this makeup that is for me. You know what I mean? Like the colors, the packaging, the overall aesthetic, it just doesn't align with what I'm looking for right now in beauty. So because I have a separation between my appreciation for a person or my love of IP, like a movie or a TV show, you know what I mean? Because there's a separation for me between that and the reason that I buy makeup, it's an easy pass. Can we talk about this MAC collection? MAC is always doing things like aesthetic things, making collections that have a really specific point of view. And it's usually like they go quite far down a certain lane aesthetically with packaging and everything. And sometimes I feel like it's worth talking about and sometimes it isn't. And sometimes it will be sort of like a collab, IP inspired or a reflection of something or somebody, which, you know, again, is sometimes interesting and sometimes not, depending on how it's executed. And this, it's interesting because I feel like color-wise, it's not interesting to me. These pinks and pastels, neutrals, they're not really selling anything new and different, or if they are, like the one green, this also kind of fits with the color train trend spotting thing that I was talking about. The little glimmers of sort of originality or edginess that are here aren't in directions that usually allure me personally, you know? So they're just, it's not, what I'm trying to say is that it's not the actual makeup itself that is making me want to talk about this instead of skipping it, which is what I do with a lot of MAC collections when I'm filming new makeup hot takes. It's the packaging. It's the aesthetic. Because it's so bad that it's good, I think. Like, I feel like there's something going on here, which is that it's so bad that I feel like they nailed something, and I'm not quite sure what it is. It's something like 1990s Polly Pocket, almost drugstore. Like there's something viscerally, deeply nostalgic about this to me from childhood, but it's like vague. It's sort of this miasma of nostalgia in shapes and color and tactile quality that MAC has compacted together into the packaging for this collection. And I kind of like can't stop looking at it, and it gives me feelings. It's so weird. It's like the pillow, the way that the surfaces of the pans look sort of like pillows, and the lip products have this jar with nubbins and gold, and it's like a really specific icy mauve kind of, and then this bow tie shaped lipstick container with like the plastic lid that goes on top. I just cannot. It feels like something that I had as a preteen and really loved, but it's not. It's not specifically that. It just really, really, really feels like that. They've somehow managed to distill the essence of that. And I haven't even talked yet about the round compacts with the eyeshadows set in like a flower pattern, which that really reminds me of Tarte. And again, I feel like it's a very bad decision aesthetically, organizationally. Just I look at it and I'm like, why did you do it that way, MAC? But there's something about it with the little bows on the mirror. Like there's just something so kitschy in a specific way, like nostalgically kitschy about it. The bow tie, the embossing. I'm not actually going to buy this or anything from it, but it's one of those situations where I want it for reasons that have nothing to do with what it is. There's a part of me that's like, just want. And I'm saying that out loud just to like have language in this in the space for that feeling, because if you can identify that that's going on instead of the thing where you're like, oh my gosh, that color, I think that color would look amazing on me. I don't have anything in that formula. The price is right for me and I like this brand. It's the right, you know what I mean? That you can distinguish between like that and actual decision making. Also, what is this? Like, what is it? Anyone? Okay, let's talk about TRIXIE. All of you were saying in the comments on the Isamaya video, when I was talking about the Isamaya gloss and how special it was, that TRIXIE was about to launch or had just launched a black lip gloss that wasn't totally opaque, that looks like it has similar qualities to the Isamaya gloss, which, if you didn't watch that review, let me fill you in, has turned out to be such a spectacular piece of makeup. It's called Black Veil. It's this like black cherry color, and I absolutely love it. And yeah, it's the feature lip gloss gloss. So it's these lip sets: Creature liquid lipstick, Creature gloss, Feature liquid lipstick, Feature gloss, and Synth liquid lipstick and Synth gloss. So it is the Feature lip gloss. It's like a black gloss, and it looks like a dead ringer for the Isamaya one. So if you've been looking for something, I mean, it is much less expensive than the Isamaya gloss. It's $16. I think the Trixie Cosmetics formula is decent. I have a lip gloss from Trixie Cosmetics that I really like. Good to know about. But am I going to go buying the Feature lip gloss because it looks like it probably looks really similar to the one that I have that I already love? No, that is something I don't do. I don't buy stuff because it looks just like something that I already know that I love. Because if I already have something and that's how I know that I love that thing, then I already have it and I don't need it. I don't need to dupe myself. I don't need to buy something that I already have, basically, just in a different package from a different brand at a different price point, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's a really cute holiday collection from Trixie. I think it's well executed, totally on brand, but a departure in its own way. I'm here for it, but I'm not going to buy it. Oh, I wanted to touch briefly, do I even want to talk about it? All I ever say is the same thing, right? The Kim Kardashian homewares, what is it? Skin home accessories. All I ever say about Kim Kardashian makeup, Kim Kardashian skincare, etc., is that it makes me want it because the aesthetic is so on point. I love the way that she executes trendy minimalism in packaging. I just love it. I feel like she nails it every time. And I'm always like, hats off to you, hats off. But I never want to spend the amount that the stuff costs for the stuff inside. You know what I mean? I'm just not really in the market for the makeup itself or the skincare itself. And so of course I wouldn't go buying it just because of the packaging. The thing that's interesting about this is that these homewares, these home accessories, all they are is packaging. Like, they're just shapes. You know what I mean? It's like just a dish, just a jar, just a trash can. So in a funny way, it's like more aligned with what I would want from a person whose packaging I admire, but whose actual products I'm not willing to pay for, you know? So when I saw it, I was like, oh, interesting. You know, it's like she's just selling containers, and her choice of containers is what I've always praised her for. But they're also wildly expensive. You know what I mean? Round container, $69. Vanity tray, $65. Like, it's just a lot. It's just a lot that it is Kim Kardashian, and that it is what it is, and that it costs what it costs. The only thing that I really care to say is that an aesthetic trash can is kind of hard to find. I feel like waste baskets are like a blight on the landscape of every room in my house. It's hard to find one that's like aligned. So it does pique my interest that Kim Kardashian has produced this like very beautiful faux concrete waste basket. What I would like to do is to start an entire brand that only sells really well-designed, really beautiful trash cans. Don't you feel like there's a hole in the market? Like, don't you feel like there's a need for that? That's what this makes me think about. But I'm not going to buy it. Okay, Charlotte Tilbury single eyeshadows in a little compact. The packaging's so pretty with the little jewels on it. The colors are really pretty. And I'm a sucker for this kind of thing when I see it because I love a monochromatic eye look. So I see this and I'm like, oh, a monochromatic blue eye, a monochromatic brown. And I look at it and I'm like, the brown would be so pretty. The red would be so pretty. I see it and I'm like, oh, I know which one I would pick if I were going to buy one. You know, it all gets in amongst me when I see a thing like this. And then I have to remember that my little tray that collects things like this, single eyeshadows, like mono eyeshadows that are just one pan or one color in its own little package, that's the part of my makeup collection that gets the least use. I just am much more likely to reach for a palette, create a palette from magnetic singles. I'm even more likely to use, I don't know, like a liquid eyeshadow maybe, if it's going to be a single like that. But little singles and little compacts like this, they just gather dust in my collection as much as I think I want them when I see them released. And I do think this is well curated, and I like that there's this blue, this kind of slightly color shifting blue, and then these pretty neutrals. I think it's well executed. It's fine. I know the way that I interact with my makeup, and I know that it wouldn't be a good decision for me to buy one. Okay, this is the last thing I'm going to talk about. The NARS Holiday. Is that what this is? Yeah, NARS Holiday. It's so interesting, okay, because I didn't feel like this quite earned a place on the trend train, because it doesn't have that same combination of really grounded jewel tones and what are we going to call them? Fluorescent pastel hybrids, you know. What it actually is like brown neutrals and an actual pastel purple, and then some supporting supporting actors, some other like shades that sort of support that color story. They didn't really go hard with this idea. I feel like the Train that we talked about at the beginning, those collections are like going hard with all of those colors and like putting it all in. Like they're putting their whole self in. You know what I mean? And this is, it's much more edited, but the thing that interests me is that it's edited like past lavender and periwinkle for holiday. And that's just different. Are we going to see this? Like we're ending on a question, right? Is this a sign of things to come? Are we about to see holiday 2022 full of periwinkle? Was it the color of the year? Is that what's going on? I think it is the color of the year still. The Pantone color. Maybe that's where this is coming from. And if that's the case, I won't really be mad at it because this is a very lightly holiday. It's with stars. I really like that. I'm attracted to this. I'm not going to buy it, but I don't know. Ever since Khaki gave me that NARS palette, I've been kind of like fond of NARS again. And I really have enjoyed using that palette. It just all looks really luxe and beautiful and I like it. I like looking at it and I like that they did this. The browns are slightly olive and I like that. And there are these kind of plummy browns or brownish purples and I really like that as well. It is beautiful. The longer I look at the eyeshadow palette, the more I like it, but I could definitely dupe the vibes of that. So maybe that's something that I'll do if it continues to kind of hold a place in my imagination. But the reason that I really want to talk about this, the thing that really interests me is the thought that there might be holiday collections upcoming that do center periwinkle or lavender that have purple as their core color like this, or their pop of color, but that are even more holiday feeling and sort of celebratory, like just a little bit more cliche holiday, but with this very non-cliche holiday color at the center. I just think that'll be really interesting to see. So I'm going to see, I want to pay attention and see, and if something like that pops up, I'm going to be like, aha, we knew you were coming because of that NARS release. Okay, that is it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today while I talked about new makeup releases. This one was a little closer on the heels of the other one than I usually do, and I kind of liked that. I felt like I was able to sort of sit back, talk about maybe some things that I wouldn't have otherwise talked about, spot a color trend and kind of dig into that. So I'll try to follow up on this one pretty soon. And you know, the new releases come thick and fast as we roll through October and into November and then barrel towards the holidays. So I'm gonna have to stay on top of it. Don't forget to click through and subscribe to the YouTube channel for Joe's podcast. It's called The Banging of the Shrew. I don't think I even said that in the intro. Isn't that good? I promise you it will be worth it. If you're even remotely excited about it, whatever it is you're imagining it's gonna be like, it is going to be like 5 times more spectacular, maybe even 10 or 15 times more spectacular than what you're imagining. Like, it is going to blow the top off of your expectations. So get excited. I'm excited and I'm really proud of Joe. And yeah, I'll link the YouTube channel, Instagram, website, and everything that you need down below. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I really, really hope that you are taking extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.